All right, let's talk about what iterables are. So in JavaScript, if something is iterable, that just means it's an object with the property name symbol.iterator, which is a function that returns a certain object. Okay. So by default, normal objects like the one I made are not iterable. So when I try to do a for up loop, you see that it says not iterable. Arrays and strings are iterable by default, and they have this. But if I uncomment this, now it says the result is not an object. Okay. So now it sees we're trying to add the symbol.iterator, and it says, hey, you're not doing it correctly. So how do we do this correctly? How do we get the for of loop to console.log all of these values right here? Well, I'm just going to do let count is equal to 0. And then let's do const key names is equal to object.keys, passing in our obj itself. Okay, for symbol.iterator to work correctly, you need to return an object. That object needs a method called next. Okay? And that next method is what determines what gets console.log every time you run a loop or the spread operator. So here we can just do if. So here we can check if count is less than key names dot length. Then we're going to do count plus plus, right? And then we can return an object. Okay, so this is the most important part right here. Whatever we return right here will be displayed. Okay, so it requires two things. The first one is the done attribute. So it knows, hey, is this loop done? Well, right now it's not done. The second one is the value. The value will be whatever you put here, it will get console.log. So how do we get our values? Well, our values is just obj at key names at count plus plus, right? And I can delete the other count plus plus. All right, so now we return this, but it's not done because it has to know when to stop the loop. Okay, so once our if statement isn't running anymore, then we can return an object with the done value of true. Okay, so now you see that when we did a for of loop, it actually console.logged everything. Right now, inside of this one, done true, if I do another value, it's not going to get printed. Okay, because when JavaScript sees that done is true, it ignores everything else. So you do not have to do this. All right, so now our object is iterable. But just because something is iterable does not mean it's an array. So you do array.isArray, and you pass in obj, you're going to get false. Okay, but since our obj is now iterable, that means we can use the spread operator, and now it will get automatically converted to a true array, and we can use all the array methods on it. Okay. So once again, for of loop does not require something to be an array or string. It just requires that thing to have a proper symbol.iterator. Okay. And just because something is iterable does not mean it's an array. But if it is iterable, you can use the spread operator and convert it to an array. Cool, right?